Once you were actually in the monastery, did you have contact with your family or your friends?
No, that was one of the good things for me about the monastery. There was no contact with anybody that I had in my past life.
So you didn't want to stay in touch with your friends, or you didn't feel like you should talk to your family?
It wasn't that I didn't want to stay in touch with my friends or enjoy my friends. And as far as my family goes, there was nothing to really enjoy with my family. My father was dead in the water, alcoholic. My mother lived a harrowing life of work, and toil. She made everything very, very difficult. So leaving that was good for me. Leaving my friends was not really difficult either, because the intensity of my interest in studying the meaning of life was so great that my friends, the ones that I knew all the way up until I was 19, 20, were not as important. And I knew they would have to understand, and I did explain to them as best I could. They were not hard on me, but they didn't understand. And I explained as well as I could what I was doing and why I was doing it. In spite of that explanation, they mostly didn't understand what I was doing.
Because you were such good friends in high school, once you went to the monastery and you were doing something that you enjoyed so much, were you sad that they weren't doing that too, or that they couldn't see what you were doing?
No, I left everything, including that, behind. All of those considerations, all of that uncertainty, the doubts about them and wishing them well, I left all that behind in favor of forging ahead with studies. No one followed me physically or psychologically or emotionally into the monastery. I turned my head 100% toward monastic studies, theology, philosophy, psychology, and related sciences, and was thrilled with it. Never looked back.
In a way, you were a completely new person, and you make it seem pretty easy. But were there any specific vices that you were struggling with when you first got there that you were really trying to rid yourself of?
Well, that's almost an embarrassing question, because the answer is no. I didn't have any problem in the monastery at all. It was like I was a fish in water, and I knew everything to do. And all of the studies and lectures that I attended and entertained were wonderful, and then privately, the studies I did privately were wonderful.
Why do you think it was so easy for you to completely immerse yourself in this new life?
Probably my nature, the nature that I had, human nature that I had, and whatever I brought in that was inclined toward philosophical and mental studies and thinking, conjecturing. And it came easily. My studies were easy for me. I did more than my studies. Some of the young monks were sent out to study outside the monastery as well and gain secular knowledge. I was one of them, sent to DePaul University to study liberal arts. There was no real difficulty at all to begin with, including the sexual and the dating. I was so filled with happy excitement about what I was studying that it overwhelmed all of the other things. Sexuality was sublimated to these things and fell under their power so that they had little influence on me. Women, girls, relating to women and girls and needing that social contact had little effect on me, because I was again so completely absorbed in these wonderful ideas which were so magical and so far beyond just human experiences. No one that I knew, anyone, including my surrogate father, would have been able to talk to me about these things. Yet here I am in a world of specific men, no women, men who are studying these things and loving it the same way I am, It's like, I guess, the gold rush. Men and women headed out to the gold rush, old and young, and they traversed the entire country from the East Coast right through the country to the West, to California, to get there. And their only goal was gold. And they went through the deserts and the mountains, and they suffered so much, and they were always thrilled. We're going to get gold. And that was all just around gold. I was rich with the gold of the meaning of life.